Hello everyone and welcome back to another Batman miniature game 3rd edition battle report on a new table setup. A little bit of a under construction or maybe just been recently destroyed section of the Gotham featuring the Triple X bar to the top left there. And today it's going to be 350 rep of the League of Assassins up against 350 rep of a Dark Knight Returns themed Batman list. So both are very strong objective decks going against each other on a fairly busy table setup. And not a huge number of models on each side, but we can go into more detail about that as we take a closer look at the crews. So here is the League of Assassins list being led by Ra's al Ghul on the big base this time. He wants that longer Inspire radius, so he's coming on the large base, and he's brought along an eclectic mix. He has two of his League acolytes right at the back there, the dual blades one over on the left there, and then the best one in my opinion, the Falconry Archer on the right. His faithful bodyguard Ubu is there, and his grandson Damian Wayne. And then the utter wild card is Captain Boomerang. Now as far as upgrades go, the Falconry Acolyte at the back there has an extra arrow. The one with dual blades at the back left there has Trained in the Shadows, so he'll be hidden, so you can start somewhere on the board when the game starts. And I think this is a new upgrade added in the app, but Ra's is taking it's called Pure Lazarus, I believe, which gives him regeneration. So he'll be here healing 1 blood per turn. And just 5 miniatures in the Batman list compared to the 6 in the League of Assassins, but very powerful, very potent, and very Dark Knight Returns themed. The Frank Miller Batman is leading this crew, and he has taken the Power Suit, is it called? Power Armor upgrade, so he's starting in that Power Armor because you start with it equipped, and he's also taken an upgraded Batsuit for +1 Endurance. So he's a little bit slow, but he has power counters he can spend on certain upgrades per turn, and if he interacts with a lamp, he can get more of them if he needs them. Carrie Kelly Robin is also coming along. She's not very much of a fighter, but she has the same role that Gentleman Ghost has, where she can just be, like once she activates it, she can only be seen if you're in base to base with her, which is really good. Then we have the Dark Knight Returns Green Arrow, Oliver Queen, the one-armed gentleman with the Kryptonite arrow that does 4 blood. He's a leader, but he has Affinity Batman, so he can be taken as a free agent in this list. Then we have Harvey Bullock, and we have the JCPD Detective. Both of them have radios, Bullock and the detective that is, and Bullock also has an extra magazine of ammo for his pistol. So the only other thing to cover is because this crew features everyone who either has the Dark Knight Returns trait and or the cop trait, the Welcome to Hell rule kicks in for the Frank Miller Batman, which lets this crew take blood damage instead of stun damage for efforts. Now against the League of Assassins crew that's going to be going for murder, that probably isn't going to be particularly relevant this time, but it is worth mentioning. So here we are at deployment with both crews set up. The League of Assassins are on your right, they won the roll-off and are also taking first activation unless they pass. Oh wait, no, they don't have a pass, it's the Batman crew that has a pass. They're on the left, and as we look around here with who has Audacity, also keep in mind one League Acolyte had hidden for the League, so they're out of deployment, and Bullock and the JCPD Detective also had hidden, so they could go outside of deployment as well. And as we just go over the battlefield here, looking at who has Audacity, I'll finally remember to mention that if you ever want to see a live game of Batman being played, we usually play it every Friday night on my Twitch live stream, because that's my quiet day, so we usually end up nerding out and playing something in Tabletop Simulator, and it usually is Batman, because the people who put that in Tabletop Simulator did a really good job with it. So if you're interested in seeing a live game every week, usually every week, Flix Gaming stuff on Twitch, although do keep in mind this channel is kept family friendly, the Twitch channel is not, there's bad language, innuendo, etc. It's a different atmosphere, so just do keep that in mind if you do decide to stop by. But I just thought I'd mention it if you wanted even more Batman. I don't put the VODs for them anywhere, so really you just have to either watch the VOD on Twitch or watch live. Those are your options. So anyway, that is it. I don't think there's any cards being played in Phase 1 or Phase 2, so we are ready to get jumped in. So it was the dual knife wielding League Acolyte who got the game started for the League of Assassins. He didn't have Audacity, but he was well within Ra's Inspire radius. He moved forward ever so slightly, not wanting to get sniped by Green Arrow, and simply put down a suspect marker. The JCPD Detective, who again was deployed outside of deployment with hidden activated, he has a radio, so he used an Inspire to put down a suspect marker, and then for his actual action he tactically moved. He's got a little bit of cover there from the telephone pole, and he's looking down the street at the League down there. He didn't do anything else though. Damian Wayne activated for the League, and he rushed up behind this building for cover and also put down a suspect marker for his turn. There is not a correction, but just an addition. In order to make what the JCB detective is doing actually matter, he made use of his detective trait, so he doesn't need to be in base to base with where he puts the suspect marker. It can be within 3, and he moved it ever so slightly over there. That was because otherwise he's not going to be able to score the card he's trying to score. So, just a quick correction there. Old Man Oliver Queen, Green Arrow activated, and he has a built-in grapple gun, which he made use of to zip onto this building up here. One, to try and have a nice line of sight on where the League might try and proceed, but also, as you can see, to put down the suspect marker that has become the first snitch of the game. Always handy to get these turn 1, so that is now in play for a potential 3 points as long as no enemies within 4 of it by the end of the round. Ubu activated, and he had been down there with Raish. He stomped over the Batmobile because he's large and wandered down the street here such that he is touching the sewer grating. For his tactical action he put down a suspect marker, and for his special action he tried to inspire fear in the JCPD detective, but he passed his willpower roll with a 4. Harvey Bullock activated, he put down a suspect marker where he was, or next to, because he has detective as well, and they are 4 inches apart. Then he moved and shot his pistol into Ubu. Because he moved, he was only rolling 1 die against his defense of 3, and he would have ignored a stun of it because he's large, but it doesn't matter because he actually missed. So with Batman and Robin still to go and the Batman crew, Raish activated, moved up ever so slightly to where you can see him. He put down the suspect marker and then as a resource played the Lazarus Pit. So I don't actually have a painted Lazarus Pit from the old Bat box, and he's got one on his base, so we're just running as is. It's probably not going to matter too much, but you place a Lazarus Pit in... Oh, is that not in focus? No, it is not. It's getting there. Give it a second. There we go. Place a Lazarus Pit in contact with a friendly suspect marker. He's doing that to the one he just put down. Friendly model, within 4 inches, which is him and Ubu. If they take damage, it gets put on the card instead. At the end of the round, for every 2 damage on this, models within 4 suffer 1. However, Raish also has a rule where he cannot be damaged by this card. So, technically, you could say all the damage is being put on him, and it's just ignored. Presumably. So, Carrie Kelly activated, aka the Dark Knight Returns Robin. She moved up, she used her special action to activate concealment, so she can only be seen if she's in base to base to protect herself from Captain Boomerang. She put down a suspect marker using Handyman, because she has a free manipulate, and then with that, for her tactical action, she shot her single blood slingshot at Ubu, and got 2 blood through. The extra damage you see there, though, is from her immediately removing that suspect marker, so it will be pulled up in a second, to do the resource of Secure the Perimeter, where you remove a friendly suspect within 4 of an enemy model, and then you do a rate of fire 1 firearm blood stun shot at them. Strength die got through, normal die did not. So that is 3 blood, 1 stun that's getting absorbed into the Lazarus Pit. I reread the Lazarus card. You can't put all of the damage on Raish. When it pays out the damage, as it were, it's on all models within 4. So Raish still takes none because of his Lazarus Pit Master, the rule is called, or something similar to that. But Ubu will. So technically, it still did something because that 3 blood, 1 stun is now going to convert onto Ubu as 2 blood at the end of a turn. The Falconry Acolyte was second last to go for the League, and they were up on this building, but it's looking like the fighting is not going to take part on this half of the table for the most part, so him staying up there would be irrelevant. So he fell down, or jumped down. He has enough movement to cover it, so he just deduct that to suffer impaired, and then he moved forwards. Didn't have Audacity, not within Inspire range, so he didn't do anything else. So it's over to Batman, and then back over to this side for Captain Boomerang. So Frank Miller Batman in his power armor activated. He's normally 8 inches movement, but the armor slows him down by 2. So he spent a power counter of the 3 he gets at the start of the game for an additional 4. So essentially it's an additional 2 because of the negative the armor gives him, giving him 10. So he moved up his 10, and then he used his expansive sonic blaster that he has on his power armor, which is the gun he tries to melt Superman's brain with. It's double stun. The expansive cone caught Ubu and Raish, needing a 3+ because it's mechanical, but it actually missed Ubu. It got Raish, but Raish was the important one to get because in hitting Raish, who could not see Batman at the start of his activation, it presumably still scores because he inflicted damage on him. It's just that the damage is then absorbed by the Lazarus Pit, so we're counting this as being scored, but it is a little bit like not 100% sure that counts because of the Lazarus Pit effect. And again, Raish isn't going to take that damage at the end of the turn because it's now absorbed by the Lazarus Pit, but that does mean Ubu will. So it's 1 point. So we're just saying it's scoring. So Captain Boomerang saw off round 1. He moved up in front of Raish in an area that's very hard to get line of sight of. He threw his bladed boomerangs at the JCPD detective at the back over there and got him fully for 3 blood, 3 stun. He is still alive and conscious, but very injured. So we're at the end of battle round 1. The JCPD detective immediately heals one of the 3 stun damage he took. And there was a little bit of a tactical mistake there in moving Captain Boomerang over to where the Lazarus Pit is, because the Lazarus Pit explodes at the end of the turn. It had 6 damage markers, because you don't count the types. So it had 6 damage markers on it, so enemy models within, friendly models within 4 take 1 blood for every 2 damage on it. Raish is immune because of his special rule, but Ubu and Captain Boomerang, I mean, the damage was coming to Ubu regardless, and it's a lot less than he would have taken, so he took 3 blood. But so did Captain Boomerang, thanks to that little misplay there. Was it worth smacking the detective to the point of almost murdering him? Might be, long term. In terms of cards being played, both sides are playing phase 4 cards. Secure the Perimeter is being played by the Batman crew. You remove 2 friendly suspects within 2 of the board edge. The 2 that were placed over there are going to be removed, and that scores that. Their Snitch also scores up here, and then it'll revert back to a normal suspect marker as well. For the League, though, they've been plotting. So they scored a do not deviate from the plan for none of their suspect markers being revealed and placing at least 1. They placed 4 to the 3 or 5 to the 4. They have +1 over Batman. And they also scored an eradicate the order for having more friendly suspects than enemy suspect markers in play. It is interesting as to whether or not that would kick in prior or before securing the perimeter. It doesn't matter in this case because they have +1 more, but just curious in the long term how that would have worked. So the League, it took a while for them to get on the board, but they're on the board for 5. And with that, we're going into battle round 2. So here we are at the top of round 2. We'll take a look at who has Audacity in a second. The Batman crew, thanks to not using that pass they had in turn 1, is getting first activation in this turn. There's 1 phase 1 card, no phase 2s being played. The Die Hard is being played for the League of Assassins, and it is being played on Damian Wayne, who is down there without Audacity. Green Arrow has Audacity, the Falconry guy has Audacity, Raish does, Captain Boomerang does, Ubu does, and then basically everybody over here except the JCPD detective, because he's probably not long for this world, has Audacity over there. And with that, let's jump in. So first up in battle round 2 for the Batman crew was Batman himself. He didn't wait till last. He spent another power counter, making it so that for every hit he gets in the next attack he makes, 2 successful blocks are required to make it not get through. He then moved his slow 6 inches into base to base with Captain Boomerang and assaulted him. The attack roll wasn't that great, considering neither of them effort. It wasn't that great, but thanks to the needing to get through it was fine. So he got 3 hits through for 6 stun, exactly enough required to knock out Captain Boomerang and allowed him to play Tonight We Are the Law. A friendly model with a Dark Knight Returns trait performs an attack that makes an enemy model KO if the target has 1 or more blood. He has 3 on him. When this happens, you score this card, but it does have a negative. For whatever reason, I don't really understand it myself, Captain Boomerang is now fully healed in terms of blood damage. Remove the blood markers immediately. So I believe I'm reading that right. You score the card, then remove the blood, and they have to have blood to score it. I guess because they want you to arrest them, not kill them. Either way, it scores for 2. Captain Boomerang loses all his blood damage, but he is knocked out and won't be getting an activation this turn. Ubu activated first for the League and decided to go after easy pickings. He went into the JCPD detective with his double blood, bleed 1 katana, or scimitar, sorry. 6 blood is more than enough with the damage he already had. The JCPD detective is unfortunately deceased and is removed, but didn't score anything directly off of that. However, during Ubu's activation, multiple threats was played. You target up to 6 friendly suspects, put a numeric counter on each that don't have one. At the end of the round, you roll 1d6. If it matches, you score. There's currently 4 markers. One next to Raish that you can't quite see over there, 1 down there, and 1 over by Robin. So 1 to 4 has been selected, so we'll see if that scores at the end of the round. Oh, before we continue, there is a counterplay to what just happened. Wait for Backup is being played for 2 resource points. Choose 1 friendly model with the name unknown, the henchman rank, and the cop trait that's been removed as a casualty. Deploy that model in your deployment zone with no damage. It cannot activate this round. The JCB detective had another guy. He's inside the deployment, just and is back at full health, and presumably ammo as well, although it doesn't specify that. Well, they didn't fire, did he, so it didn't matter. But he's back in Pog form. Carrie Kelly, Robin activated upon... Technically, she should have activated first and then you played that card as a resource, but it doesn't matter because she didn't play any other resource cards. She activated Concealment for her special action. For her tactical action, she shot her slingshot into Ubu and got 2 hits through, which would be 2 blood. However, using non-lethal ammo, which is very apt because she's on the card, she converted all that damage to stun damage instead, which would mean 2 stun. However, he's large, so he ignores 1 stun damage. So she actually only did 1 stun to Ubu, which isn't great, but it did score a card worth 2. She then, as a movement action, moved next to the suspect marker that had been marked with a 1 for multiple threats, and used her handyman trait to remove it. Raish Al Ghul activated, but first you might notice that suspect marker marked with the 1 is back. That's because there was actually a counterplay. We come back out here a little bit. Do not deviate from the plan. It was played as a resource. When an enemy model performs a reveal on a friendly suspect, cancel it. So that was not revealed by Robin and is still in play. So back to what was happening over here. Raish moved in and wanted to attack Batman. Batman efforted a full 3 times. He efforted twice, and we've discovered that this is quite a bad matchup. Raish attack 5, so 5 dice, 6 plus the strength die. He loses the strength die to the bat armor. He is arrogant and is worth more rep than Batman, so he loses a die to that. And he technically lost a die because of all the efforts as well. So he was basically just rolling 3 normal dice against defense 4 with a +1 for Weapon Master. He still only got 1 hit through, which was easily blocked. So the only damage done here was the stun damage that they both did to each other themselves. Up here on his lonesome, Green Arrow activated next. He stayed where he was. He activated Good Aim, so he can move and fire aim bows, or aim weapons, but he has a bow obviously. Gets +1 to his attack rolls. He fired his once per game, because he only has 1 load of it, Kryptonite Arrow, which is 1 die plus the strength die. He shot them down at the Falconry Acolyte. Both got through, and it does 4 blood base, so he just did 8 blood, and utterly eviscerated the poor gentleman before he even had a chance to activate. Did not score anything on the act though. So there isn't much more for the League to do this turn because they've lost 2 Audacity that weren't used. Robin activated and ran round the corner. I guess I should say Damien because there's another Robin on the table, but still, he stopped right there now that he's safe from Green Arrow firing, but can't do anything else because he didn't have Audacity. So because the returned JCPD detective doesn't get an activation this round, it was over to Bullock to be the last activation for the Batman crew. He moved up. Using his detective trait, he revealed the suspect marker that Carrie Kelly had tried to, and off of that, scored a comb through everything for revealing an enemy suspect marker for a quick 2 points. And with that, it's over to one of the League Acolytes to end off Battle Round 2. So again, without Audacity, there wasn't much he could do. He kind of hopped in the car door there and just ran down the street, obviously in the danger zone with Green Arrow, but not much else he could do. And that is going to take us to the cleanup, although we're going to quickly roll for multiple threats. It's a 1. That's hilarious. That's the only marker that got removed. Come through everything is not going to score. So at the end of Battle Round 2, Captain Boomerang has not woken up either. It's just bad luck after bad luck for the League here. So he's not getting a turn in Battle Round 3, and obviously that's a fairly pricey model that's not going to be able to do anything. And no objective cards for either side in Phase 4 being played. However, we can quickly look at the League cards. As just seen, multiple threats did not score, so that's gone. But Die Hard did because Damien survived the round. So here we are at the top of round 3, and the Batman crew has once again won the role to take the lead. On that note, there is one Phase 1 card being played. It's the Die Hard for the Batman crew, and it is being played on Green Arrow. Now it's possible that Damien might be able to take him out, but he still seemed the relative safest target to put that on. As far as Audacity goes, with Captain Boomerang unconscious, there is only 4 conscious models left on the table for the League, so they all have Audacity. And I believe everybody for the Batman crew, except the GCPD detective recently returned from the dead, have Audacity for them as well. So Batman got the turn started. You'll notice he's no longer there, it's because he ended up moving. But first of all, he played I'm the Surgeon, which is his specific card, with a lot of text to get to. When performing an attack action against the enemy boss, he attacked Raish. Push all other models within 4 of both models 4 away, which was done. Then they perform a simultaneous melee attack, and if the enemy boss is KO'd as a result, score the card. They both went full efforts for 3 stun, and Frank Miller Batman is just using reinforced gloves with combo unarmed. Raish obviously using his scimitar with Weapon Master, but the defense rolls on both sides, and again, Raish is arrogant and he loses the strength die to the Bat Armor MK1, so both rolls on both sides weren't that great. Defense rolls were pretty good. Just the strength die got through on Raish, so there's actually an extra 2 stun there. Nothing got through from Raish's end to Batman. He used a special action to activate his back claw afterwards in disgrace and shot over here 12 inches. And that's the self-inflicted effort damage right there. So Raish activated and decided to pick on someone else. He moved into base to base with Bullock, still losing a die to Arrogant because Bullock's obviously worth a lot less rep, but doesn't matter. 3 sword swipes got through for 6 blood, exactly enough health that poor old Bullock is removed. He's eating donuts and drinking coffee somewhere else now. And during Raish's turn also another multiple threats was played. There's still 3 suspect markers for the league on the table, and 2, 3, 4 are the numbers that have been placed on them. So we'll see if that scores at the end of the round. Green Arrow activated and he was up there. He revealed his own suspect marker at the last possible point it's possible to do this, converted it into loot, because you can't use this card in turn 4, so this was the last chance. So he's now holding the loot and hoping to score that at the end of the game. He then activated his grapple gun. He didn't use it in turn 2, and he shot backwards over here to try and be safe, and he has the JCP detective there for a little bit of backup. So not relenting, Damian Wayne activated next for the league. He activated his back claw and he's an acrobat, so that gave him 17? Something like that, 17 inches of movement. He shot across here and he had enough to get into base to base with Ollie. They both efforted 3 times. Ollie got -1 on his defense rolls for being 1 armed, and all said and done with his combo double blood katanas, Damian did 8 endurance damage with blood, and that's exactly enough. Oliver has sadly been removed, didn't score anything on that. Does mean Die Hard can't score. The valuable commodities, however, stays in play. The loot is now on the floor, and obviously the JCB detective can pick it up. So seeing that unfortunately he was in Ubu's threat range, the JCB detective activated right now. He did a movement action as his own action without audacity, in such a way that he picked up the loot and then ended his move in base to base with the circle rating. He used the free manipulate via his radio from the Inspire from Batman to come all the way across this side of the table to try and be safe with the loot over here. Ubu activated and decided to go after Robin because she hasn't activated yet, so she hasn't got concealment on, etc. And he was within an inch, so reach applied. They both efforted 3 times. This Robin is defense 5 though. She's not much of a fighter, but she is very defensive. He efforted, I said that, they both efforted 3 times. Only the strength die got through for 2 blood of her 5 endurance. So he then moved his 10 inches up there, just in case it makes any difference if he can get at Batman in the final turn. So Kara Carey activated. She used concealment, not that it's going to matter. She moved over here, she revealed one of the 3 suspect markers that the league has down, and got a comb through everything scored for revealing an enemy suspect marker for 2 more points. So now it is over to the League Acolyte with the knives, with Audacity down there, to end off the penultimate turn. So the League Acolyte came round the car, within range there, to chuck throwing knives at the JCP detective. 2 of them got him in the chest for 2 blood. Still conscious obviously, but a little hurt. And that does take us to the end of the battle round, so we're going to quickly roll for multiple threats. There's only a 3 and a 4 left on the board, and that would be a 2, so it does not score. So end of battle round 3, and Captain Boomerang did not wake up. It's just bad luck after bad luck for the league, so he is not getting a turn in the final battle round. Everyone who is conscious is healed 1 stun. There's 1 phase 4 card being played by the league though, Eradicate the Order, just for having more suspect markers down. Thanks to the loot, there's 0 Batman ones, so that has scored for 3 points, which is much needed, especially because, again, thanks to just bad luck, a second multiple threats did not score. I'm curious how that swing of 6 points is going to influence the final score. But anyway, let's jump into setup for the final battle round. Dawn of the final day, aka the final turn. Everybody who's left on the table and is conscious has Audacity. I mean, there's only 3 miniatures left for the Batman crew, so what do you expect? And it is the Batman crew taking first activation again, which is very lucky for them, assuming Batman can take out that Acolyte to stop him killing the GCPD detective holding the loot. There is no Phase 1 or Phase 2 cards being played, so we're just jumping straight in. So Batman did indeed activate first. He moved in, he efforted 3 times, the Acolyte efforted it twice. It made no difference thanks to the combo. That's 10 stun damage, so he's very knocked out. Didn't score anything on it, but did basically secure that the JCPD detective will live with the loot for 3 at the end of a turn. So Ra's al Ghul activated. He activated Deadly Strike or whatever it's called, so he has crit casualty on his attacks. He went over to the Sword Grating and manipulated it for a tactical action, so he popped it over here. This is entirely a Hail Mary play, incidentally. So obviously he couldn't attack, but then he played Lord of the Pits, which is his card. If your friendly boss is within 8 of the enemy boss, which after travelling through the sewer he was, place your boss in contact with it. Both perform a simultaneous melee attack against the other. If you kill the boss, you score the card. The Frank Miller Batman did Welcome to Hell to take 2 efforts with blood damage instead. Ra's didn't because he's getting a bit too high with stun and knew he was getting punched back. But he did pretty well with his rolls. 6 blood damage through. The power armor has 4 ablative health, 2 left after the efforts, so 2 of that got absorbed by that. Broke open his power armor and then did 5. Oop, I almost knocked over a building. Did 5 to him, but he has 10 health with the +1 endurance from his upgraded bat suit, so he's perfectly fine. He punched Ra's back. He has 5 defense and only got the strength die through for 2 stun. He's conscious by 1 or 2 remaining. So Lord of the Pit didn't score. Again, that was just a Hail Mary play to try and get a nice 3-pointer. Would have been fun. At least he cracked open the power armor. I was beginning to think he was going to get through the entire match without losing it. Carrie Kelly Robin activated. She shot the last of her slingshot ammo into Ubu for the 3rd time. Did 2 blood, converted it to stun with a non-lethal ammo to score for 2 points, which then gets reverted down to 1 stun because he is large. She then ran backwards to the Sword Grating, used her Handyman Manipulate to run away from Ubu and pop up down here just because if she popped up at the other side, Damien could have got her. So Damien activated, he put down his suspect marker and he played the final multiple threat. So I think there's a 3, 4 and a 5 marked, and fingers crossed this one actually scores at the end of the round. Final activation of the game for the Batman crew. The GCP detective revealed the suspect mark he was next to, taking away one of the multiple threats to 4, so it's now only going to score on a 3 or a 5, and scored by doing that a comb through everything. So at least he didn't do it just to be annoying, he did do it for a reason. So though Ubu still has an activation, there is actually nothing he can do to score any card in the hand or even play it as a resource. Playing that multiple threats a turn early was an attempt to get something else in, but it didn't work. So we are just going to approach the end of the game now, but it matters as to whether or not multiple threats scores. Valuable commodities does, so that's going to go into the score pile. But does multiple threats for the 3rd time in the game not score? It didn't score. It needed to be a 3 or a 5. That is rough. So here we are at the end of the game. The Batman crew has definitely won. That was one of the unluckiest games for the League of Assassins I've ever seen. But will a 9-point swing make a difference had all of those multiple threats scored? The League, let's see what they have. So they have 2, 3, 4... Wait, sorry, no. Let's try and count. That was a 3 first. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, that's easy to remember. So let's see if 19 would have made a difference. 2, 4, 6, 8... 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Well, so it was 18 to 10. If all the multiple threats had scored, the League would have won by a single point. But, you know, there was, 4 suspect markers, 3 suspect markers, then 2 for the rolls. So it got increasingly unlikely that they all would have scored. But there's a version of events out there somewhere where every one of those did score. Oh, actually, I just realised we didn't even include the viable commodities in that pile. I forgot. It's still sitting over here, so never mind. It would not have, but it would have been a closer game had the multiple threats scored. But yeah, I forgot about the viable commodities, so even less likely or possible now. But still, the League's lost on points, but Carrie Kelly isn't doing much. Batman just lost his power armor. The only reason GCPD Detective here is alive is because he got reborn thanks to a card, which was a great play because he ended up securing the loot, so he did work. But the League were winning the battle here, and it was just such an unlucky turn of events over and over. The multiple threats cards, some of the dice rolls from Ra's, Captain Boomerang getting knocked out and then not waking up for 2 turns in a row on a 6 endurance roll. Unheard of amounts of bad luck there for him and the team in general. The Dark Knight Returns listed okay. I was giving the Frank Miller objective cards a try. I don't know, they're a little weird. You've got to knock out someone who's got blood damage on them, essentially, which is annoying to set up compared to the rest of the Batman cards, which are, generally speaking, super easy to set up. But anyway, we're not here to deliberate. I'll leave that up to you lot. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you in the future for more. And until then, ta-ta for now.